So in the next 40 minutes, we will discuss how we can scale up finance for carbon farming, an example with Uganda. I'm Stefan Färber. I'm a computer scientist, and I'm co-founder of TREEO. And with me on stage is Ameni, our carbon expert. She's raised in Tunisia, and we call her immediately Carbonista. And you will find out what this role is. Ameni has a PhD in forestry from the University of Göttingen, and you will see her later what he's doing every day. And next, I want to introduce you to Samantha. Samantha is from Uganda, from the NGO Fairventures Worldwide, and there she's heading projects with smallholder farmers and planting trees in Uganda. So, forgot to click the next slide. So why do we want to plant more trees? Because trees are good to remove carbon dioxide from atmosphere. With new trees, you capture CO2 from the atmosphere, and carbon is stored in the trees, but also more importantly, for long-term storage in construction timber or as biochar. So that was about the theory. Now let's look into the practice. So Samantha, how is it planting trees in Uganda? How is life with the projects with smallholder farmers there?
Thank you, Stefan. Hello. I'll quickly take you through the tree planting projects we do in Uganda. I'll introduce to you the State Trees project, which is one of the tree planting projects under Fairventures Worldwide in Uganda. We implement this project in degraded landscapes in the eastern, central, and western parts of the country. How we implement them is we start by constructing community nurseries. This is to ensure that we have a sustainable supply of good quality planting materials, that is tree seedlings. Next, we do trainings, community trainings. We have to train the farmers in good agroforestry practices. Here, we train these farmers on how to plant trees, how to tend them, and how to monitor them. Next, we conduct community plantings together with the farmers. Here, we plant indigenous trees and also fruits. Why we look at indigenous trees? It's because we are dealing with smallholder farmers, and these are farmers who have small sizes of land on which they have to produce their crops as well. After that, we conduct tree monitoring. This is done using the rudimentary web, but we introduced TREEO as the digital monitoring app. We do it with the farmers. At the monitoring, after monitoring, we see which farmers have performed well, and then we choose the lead farmers. The lead farmers are then chosen depending on who is performing well in the field, who has tended for their trees properly, which ones are surviving the most. And then at the end of it all, we do reward the farmer. Whichever farmers are selected as the lead farmers, we reward them with cash crop seed. This cash crop seed is for them to realize a livelihood in the short term. However, the Ugandan smallholder farmer still faces a lot of challenges. And these include limited access to finance. Being a least developed country, most smallholder farmers struggle to have money for their daily basic needs. They also have limited access to technologies, for instance, TREEO, and this limits their access to markets because they will not know them unless we introduce them to them. They also face a problem of high susceptibility to climate disasters, for instance, flooding, fires, water unavailability, among others, and these really frustrate their conservation efforts. There is, lastly, and not least, they've also faced land tenure system challenges in Uganda, and this actually frustrates their efforts to carry out the restoration because of the different limitations that are around the land tenure systems. So the question is, How does the farmer benefit from these trees that they are planting during the tending years to overcome these above-mentioned challenges? Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Samantha, sharing your insights from Uganda. And now we want to put you in the audience in the shoe of a smallholder farmer in Uganda. So I want to have 3 volunteers here on front of stage. Please come up, and you will look at our Winnie's forest and measure a tree diameter and calculate how much carbon is in the tree. So who want to join? Come on. Yeah. So one more. Hey, good. So welcome on stage. May you shortly introduce you? Did you ever plant a tree? What's your name?
So my name is Nurhan. I finished my PhD in Germany in another section, so healthcare, and this is the first time to do things like this with the plants and trees. Yeah.
Thank you for joining. So come on. And who are you?
I'm from Sri Lanka. I'm a plant breeder and an academic in the university. And I teach genetics, so it's related to my field.
So you know how much carbon is in the tree?
In this particular species.
Okay, we find out. Thank you for joining.
Hi, I'm Steven from Uganda, and I'm also a tree planter.
You planted some trees already, right?
Yeah, quite a lot.
Thank you for joining. So Samantha, now it's your turn to explain how do you measure how much carbon is in the tree if you are a smallholder farmer.
Thank you, Stefan. To measure the carbon in a tree, you start by measuring the diameter, and to establish the diameter of a tree when you're in the forest or in a plantation, this is measured at breast height. Breast height is 1.3 meters or 4.5 feet above the ground. This can be done using various tools. You can use a diameter tape like Stefan is holding. At that, you wrap it around the tree at 1.3 meters, and then you establish the diameter in centimeters, or you can use a vernier caliper. We do not have one here, but better yet, you can use a digital tool, which is what we are here to show you, TREEO. So we are going to try out how to use TREEO, and for it, it's even better because you establish the diameter and you get the carbon all at once. Thank you.
But first we want to have your estimates. So you can pick one of the tree species you like most, and then you estimate how is the diameter of this tree and how much CO2 would be in the tree if it would be a full tree. Just, we couldn't take the full tree to stage, right? So just the stem. And you write down your estimates, and then we will calculate with our software what is the real value. So please pick up a tree. So this is a sengon tree from Indonesia. It's a light wood. It's Kapwene from Uganda. So you know this probably. Yeah. Just estimate, yeah. Can you pick on two? So you have Musizi from Uganda. You want to measure, okay. You just want to have your estimate. Just to guess what's the diameter. So diameter and carbon. Yeah. You can use just your fingers. So we have 10 to 12 centimeters on the sengon tree. That's, yeah. 10, okay, you can also put the inches in. Just write it down. Okay, 3 inch. Yeah, write it down. But now comes the more difficult question. So how much CO2 has this tree captured in its lifetime from atmosphere? You have any idea how many kilograms and ton this is? It's difficult, right? We don't know how much ton we use to fly here. We don't know what your nature is doing exactly. So now we want to show you, and we have 3 phones for you, how we do this with the TREEO app. So it takes a picture of the tree and then measures automatically everything for you. So they start showing. I will go for the video. So for everybody online, where you cannot see so easily, we have also video running in the background, what they are doing now. This is from, keep on here. Okay. So once you take a picture, the software is calculating the diameter of the tree. Then you have to pick the tree species. And after that, we know from allometric formula how much biomass is in the tree. And from there, we can calculate easily how much CO2 the tree has captured in lifetime. Along with the picture, we also take the GPS coordinates of the tree and keep this also in our TREEO cloud. So this is 7.4 centimeter. This was a good picture. You just measure is correct. And then you pick, you now pick the German beech, that's this one. Then you continue and finish. So this tree has 780 kilograms of CO2 and is 7.1 centimeters wide. So you see, with modern technology, we can not make it easier to measure the tree diameter. We can only speed it up because it takes only 20 seconds to measure one tree with this way. So thank you for being a hobby forester with us now. You can keep one card with you. Thank you. And we also receive one of our TREEO pens. Hey. He left already. So also, thank you for joining here. This is broken? Okay. One card. So you can download the app from the App Store and then measure your own trees in your garden. Thank you for being here on stage. So where's the clicker? Here. So, farmers heard in Uganda in particular too that there is a lot of money in the carbon business, and if they now grow trees, the question is, how much money can they get when they grow a tree? And how do they participate in that market? Today they cannot, and this will be now explained by Ameni.
Thanks, Stefan. So, so let's have a look at the recent average carbon price from the voluntary carbon market between 2019 and 2021. So the total market value has increased from 320 million US dollar to 748 million US dollar, which is an increase of about 130%. Now, the average price per ton of CO2 equivalent remained between $3.07 and $3.13. For the forestry sector, we have slightly higher values that are ranging between 4.3 and 4.7 US dollar per ton of CO2 equivalent. So actually, this price is supposed to cover the different costs of the reforestation activities, for the farmer from planting, maintaining, and keeping the trees on the land. So the question here, is it actually a fair price?
Yeah, this question now goes back to you. We want to include you now in the discussion. What is a fair price for carbon? And for that, please get out your mobile phones. We have an app here that's called Slido. So you can either scan the code here on the screen, or you go to slido.com, enter the number 5063909, and then you can enter your opinion, what is done by a farmer to do forestry, replanting, pruning, seedling production, whatever, and this will show up here. So we have the first participant online. So is it working for you? Can you access Slido? All right, or do you have problems? It's not working for you? Yeah, we have a microphone for you, then everybody can hear. Okay.
I think I have a quite general query. Even before thinking about the price and the actual plantation type, I was thinking like the monitoring cost or the verification cost. If like thousands of farmers plant trees in their small farms, how it is actually going to be operationalized? Because I'm involved in a few national or sub-national carbon trading scheme. Even that is quite hard for the verification. The cost is quite high.
Yeah,
the process is very complex. Even though this is quite important and is quite helpful for the farmers, but in terms of the operational implementation, yeah, I think we need to work out a lot. There are several things that we need to clarify before assigning a price and a type of plantation.
Yeah, you're right. So most of today's carbon money does not go to the farmers. It goes to the organization doing the methodology, the standardization, and the verification and validation. But with TREEO, the farmer can do the measuring themselves. So monitoring should be also included in the activities that the farmers is paid for, because it also takes time. Thank you for your contribution. So you see a lot of things like planting is clear, watering, maintenance, getting the seedling out, also putting crops in between, doing agroforestry systems, operations. What else? Monitoring is also on the list now. Good. Documentation, thinning, soil conservation, yeah, good one. Taking care of indigenous trees. It's also important that we do not bring in trees which do not belong in that biosphere. So thanks a lot for all your input, and it shows it's quite a lot what a farmer has to do. And now we look at the real facts and numbers from Uganda, Samantha. So how does it look like there?
Thank you, Stefan. I come from an NGO that implements agroforestry projects to restore the degraded landscapes, and that's Fairventures worldwide. It's implementing in Uganda and Indonesia. So I bring to you a context from a Ugandan and an Indonesian farmer who is trying to establish a plantation on a hectare at a spacing of 3 by 4 meters. That's approximately 833 trees per hectare. So as you can see, there is cost for the Ugandan farmer and the Indonesian farmer, but what is very key is for each farmer, the highest costs are actually varying. For the Ugandan farmer, it's 548 for the cost of seedling. That means in Uganda, the cost of seedlings are actually very high. Then for the Indonesian farmer, from the estimates, it's the tree management that is actually really high. So what is to note is the total estimate for 1 hectare for the Ugandan farmer is $1,849, whereas the one for the Indonesian farmer, as you can see on the table, is $2,292. So here what I'm trying to bring out is the costs are actually bound to vary with context and the location of the farmer that you're going to measure the carbon for. So, but why are we talking about smallholder farmers? The reason we are trying to talk about smallholder farmers is because they are actually usually excluded from the voluntary carbon markets. And this is because of the complications around their operations, the small sizes of land, but then also the different dynamics in agroforestry models. While you're planting, there could be boundary planting, there could be scattering, woodlot, alley. So all that usually demotivates the carbon people not to engage them, and this is why we are actually talking about them. Thank you, Stefan.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Samantha, for these insights. Maybe you can click and move to the next slide. So this would mean that the cost for Fairventures worldwide is between 6.3 US dollar per hectare for Uganda and per ton, sorry, in Uganda, and $7.8 per ton of CO2 in Indonesia. So this cost is a rough estimation that is based on the capacity of tropical forests to store the carbon, and this carbon is then converted into CO2, and of course we only consider here the long-term average that we are allowed to sell in the market. So as you may see, these costs are way or already above the average price of carbon in the voluntary carbon market. And this without considering any benefit or additional financial benefit that the farmer can receive or should receive from these projects. So I have one more slide to add in this vein. So this shows the mitigation options and costs for the agriculture, forestry, and land use sector in 2030 based on the IPCC report. So let's have a closer look at the ecosystem restoration, afforestation, reforestation costs. As you may see, the main, let's say, costs are ranging or are between 20 and 50 US dollar per ton of CO2 equivalent, 50 and 100, and even reaching 100 to 200 US dollar per ton in 2030. And this is just, again, confirming that the actual or the recent prices that we have now are not sufficient to cover the different activities of the implementing reforestation projects. But I think that at TREEO, we are on the right track to have fairer price of carbon. So maybe I think, Stefan, you are the right person to tell our audience more about our business model at TREEO.
Yeah, right, Ameni. So the question is, how does this money now get funneled and sent to the farmers in Uganda or Indonesia and somewhere else in the world? You click on the next slide too. So there are 900 million hectares degraded land on our planet. There are 500 million smallholder farmers. They are ready to take on tomorrow to plant trees and capture carbon with the trees. But they don't have the pre-financing, as Samantha was laying out. So that's why we came up with a business model at TREEO that we get CDRs to a market, and the organization paying for the carbon removals, we call them balancers. Balancers are organizations or companies who are serious about their climate impact. So it's not about greenwashing, it's companies, and they are out there, so it's not that they are not there. This term is coined from the SBDI, it's a Science-Based Target Initiative, and they call it counterbalancing. So this is the organization that balance. So they pay per ton of carbon dioxide removal. We send 80% of that money to the growers. And we provide the growers also with the software, like you see in the app here. We have also a cloud service to collect the data to overcome the problem of verification and monitoring. Can you click one more? In return, the growers provide TREEO with the carbon removal in the trees and the data. So the farmers themselves, they make the inventory of their forest. So we say they hack their tree once a year. They do one measurement once per year. So that's why we have a data point for each tree from every farmer every year. And this trend is then sent back as an information to the balancers as a high quality carbon, because we can prove that the carbon has been really captured. And we call this a traceable carbon dioxide removal, CDR. You also see on top we have a safety buffer, because you know this business is pretty risky. You have forest fires, you have farmers quitting, you have flooding. So 20% of the money we put into additional trees, we do not sell as carbon removals, but keep them on the side. We can even adjust this safety buffer. Our current estimate is that 20% is much on the higher side. If we later learn after 10 years we don't need it, we have additional money we can give to the growers. So one more click, please. But the story doesn't end here. So our long-term vision is that we store carbon in higher permanence in sinks in construction timber, or as biochar, fertilizer for agriculture or forestry. Because if we keep the carbon only in trees, it stays there for 10 years or 30 years. But if we can have this in the building, it has a much higher effect. And here we share the vision of Professor Schellenhuber, from the founder from the Potsdam Institute of Climate, that is called Bauhaus Earth. So there the idea is that timber is used instead of steel and cement in the building industry. And if 90% of the future buildings, and there's much higher demand of buildings coming up because of the growing population, is being done by timber, we can save 244 gigatons of CO2. So if you just add these two numbers, 200,000 gigatons from forest and 244 gigatons from timber construction, this is a huge lever to fight our climate problem. So, I think now that you have learned a lot about forestry and carbon and trees, you're well equipped to walk along with us. We want to stay in contact with you. But it's our decision if we want to go with carbon removals with monoculture. You see on the left-hand side, this is an eucalyptus forest in Uganda. And I've been there just this year. And I have to tell you, that's scary. If you're in this forest, there's no animal. There are no insects. It's a very strange atmosphere. That is not the forest we want to grow. We want to grow forests which are vivid, have a high biosphere, like you see on the right-hand side. And we believe good forests are an excellent climate solution. And if you share that vision, we want to stay in contact with you. So please come to our booth at the Innovation Zone starting on Monday, on the 14th, booth number 6. Or visit our website, stay in contact with us. Or just come up to the stage after this presentation. We're happy to discuss with you how we go forward. Thank you very much. Thank you for your contribution today. Bye-bye.